So, am I pronouncing your name right, Placidia?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Can you introduce yourself a bit so that we just start the session then after the introduction?
Okay, my name is Placidia Araba.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing level 5 course. I work in health and social care as well in a care home. So that's it about me.
Okay, great. Nice to meet you. Hopefully we'll have a wonderful journey. I work otherwise also, and I'm passionate about teaching. So I'm working full time also as a teacher at a university over here. So any point in time you need more clarification on any concept that I'm talking about, any concept that I'm teaching you, please let me know. I'll try my best to address the issue. If it's not possible at that time, I'll get back to you definitely. Okay.
Okay. Yes,
So
please.
yeah. So with that, I will start sharing my screen with you. A minute. Okay. So can you see my screen here?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So we'll make a start. So today's topic is about, so we're talking about leading practice in health and social care. Um, so how do you become a good manager? Because we don't realize, but on our own, no matter what we are doing, we are still managing, we are still leading someone. If that, even if that's, we've just joined an organization, in some point in time, we will be assigned a managerial role or a leadership role, even if that's a small one. How do we do it to the best of our abilities? How does science back that, this concept? And how does science support this concept? We'll talk about what different leadership ways are, what manager, how do managers work, what do they expect from us, and this is the learning objective is the first one, in which you'll understand the importance of your own role in leading practice and providing it in health and social care. So this unit's aim is to be an effective person, an effective leader, or to be effective in your leadership role in health and social care. That requires a need to be supervised and manage provision and lead and support others through workforce provision. So how are you going to do that? What's the strategy? The different strategies, we'll talk about each strategy, and we'll talk about what one the best. So all these strategies look amazing, but obviously not all of them would suit us. And it's this unit we hope would develop your skills and knowledge in your role as a manager and a leader, where you develop strategies in order to provide quality provision in health and social care. So our main focus will be on quality being provided wherever we are working. And it's suitable for you people as you're at higher level managers who work with autonomy, working in healthcare, social care, and child services, etc. So the content that we will go through will comprise of methods, certain styles of leadership. I'll walk you through all of them, and your roles and responsibilities. So you'll have to identify your own role and what your responsibility is, and then relate this to certain management models that have been given in theory. So we'll talk about this different styles of leadership. We'll talk about what has been evidenced, what has been there in according to research, what do we find, what are the findings, and then how do we go about working according to those findings. And then comparison of observed and perceived styles of leadership, and the different advantages and disadvantages of different leadership models that we'll talk about. We'll talk about what your current skills and competencies are within your own organization. We'll talk about what opportunities are there for continuous professional development. And then at the end, we will talk about some targets that should be not only smart, but even smarter. So how do we develop those, that strategy? So there's certain key terminologies that we'll discuss. So leadership. So if I ask you, what comes to your mind when we talk about leadership? Anything?
Yeah, someone responsible for a particular purpose or the moving forward of an organization.
Yeah, very
That's
good.
what comes to my mind.
Yeah. So it's the action of leading a group. So it could be a small group of people or the whole organization. So the different strategies, the different ways how you are going to be leading someone. So you have to make sure that if you're a leader, you can't be, you can be authoritative at times, but at times you'll have to delegate that authority. So it's not that everyone will follow you or be comfortable in following you every time. So there'll be different ways in which you'll have to change your leadership styles. Okay, yeah. So what is leadership in health and social care? It's the promotion of continuous development of knowledge, your skills, and the abilities of the staff that improve the quality of patient care. As I mentioned, patient care is, and if we're working in care homes, it's again patient care, their safety is of, it's our priority. Their quality care is our priority. This is why they'll come back to us. Otherwise, they'll go somewhere else. So we should have the compassion, and the patient experience matters a lot. And then you have to consistently encourage and motivate and then reward innovation and introduce new styles and new ways of working, which you think have not worked before. You'll have to omit them and then change them according to the situation. And within healthcare, skilled leaders motivate staff. So there's a lot of motivation. So there might be staff members who are not doing very well. What is the reason behind that? You need to dig into that and then try and motivate them to the best of your ability, because you need to give them the opportunity to work to their highest potential, because you need them to give back to the organization. You need them to perform as much as they can to the highest level of their abilities in order to safeguard the patient health, which is our priority. So there are nurse managers, there are doctors, health administrators who supervise teams and daily operations. Uh, and some people are natural leaders, some may not be natural leaders, some may just be a part of the flock and they're okay with it. But at some point in time, you will be a leader. Um, and then in health system, sorry, what are the different leadership, what does leadership say in the healthcare system as an overall? So the leadership task is to ensure that there is direction, alignment, and commitment within the teams and organizations. So if there's no commitment, there's no alignment. So there should be streamlining of different responsibilities, different tasks. If there's no commitment, any one of these, if there's any limitation in that, that team does not progress. And then there is the leadership quality should be that there should be a direction and there should be an agreement and a pride of the people who are within that organization, and they're working together with you in order to achieve that value, that vision, according to whatever vision you have in wherever you're working. What is alignment? It is the effective coordination and integration of work. So you need to coordinate work. You're not going to do, going to be, obviously, you're not going to, it's not possible for everyone to work and do all of the work. Like, obviously, there'll be different people who will have different tasks and responsibilities. As a manager or as a leader, it's not possible for you always to go and focus on people, that what they're doing and what they're not doing. It's sometimes it's possible, sometimes it's not possible. So how does it work best? We'll talk about those strategies. What is commitment? It is manifested by everyone in the organization. So they're taking responsibility, they're making this a priority, and they're working towards the organization. They're not silent, they're working, they're striving towards achieving the best, even without the leader having to push them. And an effective leader is in health services emphasizes continually that there should be safe, high quality, compassionate care, which should be the top priority. And the, when I when as a tutor, I focus on my students. So my teaching has to be student centered. But when you're working in healthcare, you have to listen to your patients. So your center should be the patient, their experience, their concerns, their feedback. That should be your main objective, to see where your yardstick, where do you stand, and where do you want to be in some time. And a leader, a good leader, will offer support, will be available, will be empathetic, will be fair, will be respectful and compassionate, and they will empower you. That is what leadership is all about. It's not that they have the power and they don't want to see the power, you empowered. No, they will want to see you at that same position in some time. And also promote participation and involvement, as this should be their core responsibility as a leader. So the staff should have their own voice, should have their own opinion, and should have new ideas, and they should be rewarded for whatever they do. And this is how they strive for the best then. So there are certain skills in healthcare. I'll talk about the top 8 skills that every healthcare process improvement leader must have. So the first one is communication. So there's not, without communication, there's nothing can be possible. So you have to be a good communicator. Once you communicate, when you're at the level of your staff, at the level of your colleagues, this is how they're open, and this is how you work together. And then there is trust building, where you have to build that trust. You have to show them that you trust them for their decisions. This is how they become confident. This is how they gain confidence and they trust themselves then. Coaching, you should be a very good coach. This cannot be possible always, but whenever anyone needs support, they should know that you are there for them, to help them, support them. Obviously, you will be trained for that. You will be trained for how to coach the people who you lead. Understanding how the process works. So if you're in a system, you need to know how that process works and how is it designed. This is why the reason for this is because you have to have new yardsticks, new objectives for the organization that you're running. For that, or where you're leading, for that you need to know what's in place, because if you want to make a change, you need to know what is there before. Number 5 is understanding care management personnel. So this is understanding how the process relates to real environment, especially for frontline workers. Why do I say that? Because we are all focusing on patient care, patient quality. What about our own
What
staff
about?
experiences? Yeah. Yeah, you have a question?
No, I didn't hear that. You said what about?
Yeah, understand management. So because
The audio is going off.
we
Hello?
focus more on
Hello?
patient health
Hello?
care, obviously
Hello?
Yeah, Placidia, sorry for that.
Yeah.
I'll just share my screen again. Yeah, where were we?
We're talking about frontline workers understanding management.
Yes. So yes, we were talking about, yeah. So we need to understand how our frontline workers are dealing with different situations. So the environment may not remain the same. You may know about the processes that are there in place, but these processes may change. The environment may change, the situations may change. So you're going to have to develop that understanding that you're going, situations are changing, and then how do you focus on your workers, on your team as well as the patient. So this is a very critical situation that we're talking about. And then talking about constructive accountability and conflict. So there, wherever there are people, there are going to be voices, there are going to be conflicts. You cannot deny this fact. So how does a good leader have the skill of working in such a situation? So you have to create an environment of where there's constructive accountability and not always say that this is the way we've always done it. So if there's someone who says something, they should have a say in it. They should have their voice heard. So it's not going to be the way you run it. No, there can be a person who can make a change. If that change leads to a better outcome, you should be welcome to it. And that's resilience and resistance. This is an everything, actually. So if you might not achieve a great amount of what you've expected to achieve, or what you plan to achieve. But if you're resilient and you're persistent in what you're doing, you, even if you're doing it in very small steps, that should be continuous. That is a quality um, of a leader who aims to achieve higher for their team, for the organization. And then as a leader, the last thing is keep an eye on your ultimate goal. That should be your focus. And what our main focus is patient care, obviously improving quality care. But this is not all. That is a tunnel vision. If you consider only patient care, that is a very narrow vision that you have. You should have a bigger picture, like what do you want to achieve, not only for your patients, but for the organization as a whole. So your leadership styles, they vary according to the organization, how its structure is, the people that are working, the environment, and what tasks are coming forward. So there'll be different tasks at different times. And as we talked about different environments, changing environments, we don't have any control on them. People went from face to face, they went off, all of them went online. And now situations are changing again. And then again, we have this situation now, having online lectures and online teaching. So according to the situation, how do you mold yourself? This is how different leadership styles should work. There's five common leadership styles that are most commonly talked about. So there's, we'll talk about this. in detail, and what are the um, what aspects do you consider in them? Which do you think works best for you? We'll talk about that also. So the first one is a transformational leadership. This is so, as the term suggests, it's transformation, it's a change. So there's emphasis on change and a change as a whole. So leaders who have this um, ability in them that they want to see a change. They follow this transformational leadership style, and it's very effective in organizations that make major train changes. And your major changes are again to see the major outcome, your bigger picture there in your mind. So there's some key characteristics that are included are a focus on the future. So again, you have your organization's goal, the bigger picture that you should have in your focus. The second is a focus on change. So everything doesn't remain the same. So you have to adapt, be able to adapt to change, and understand why it is necessary for the organization to make when you're making this certain change. Certain changes may be acceptable to some people, and some people might not accept that change. But you will have to work. There should be a mutual understanding, and that change should have that ultimate goal of improving the system. And then the third is a focus on people. So uh, uh, if a leader works on this particular aspect of transformation, they see the potential in each and every one of their people, their staff, their colleagues, and their ultimate goal should be strengthen their abilities also. If that change is happening, is it detrimental to someone? That shouldn't be the case. So in transformational leadership, there is a change going to happen, and that change should be positive for everyone who is a part of this team. The second one is delegation. So as the name again suggests, it's like a less is fair. This is a term given to just leave things the way they are. So it's like delegating leadership. So for instance, if I learn something, I delegate my other team members. They're also a part of the team. They've learned something. So I delegate my stuff, my responsibilities to my team members. And this is it's like letting them do what they can do, and it's giving more authority to the people who are working with you. And the leaders who adopt this style have a lot of trust, and they rely on their employees to do their job. So they're not pointing towards a particular person that, oh, following that person, and like they're not micromanaging those people. They're giving them the authority to do what they can do best. And sometimes this works, this tends to be the best way of working as a leader, because the trust that you develop in people, if they work on it in the best of their abilities, and their objective, their ultimate aim is also uh, the betterment of the whole system, then this can work as a wonder. And instead of these delegative leaders give their employees the freedom that they utilize their creativity, their resources, and experience to help them meet their goals. So their main objectives are there, but then they have this thing in mind also, obviously, that how in that role, how can they achieve their best, because they've been handed over this responsibility. How can they do it best? And if in this way, if the team members are competent and they take the responsibility for their work, only then it can be a very big success. Otherwise, it can also backfire. Um, as there could be disagreements between teams because you're giving them all the authority. So there may be division of groups. Some people may like a strategy, some people may not, because you're giving authority to people. And it can be difficult also for newcomers. So a newcomer doesn't know what to do. It's a new place for them. and you all of a sudden you delegate this responsibility to them, it's hard for them. Some time, it's always good in that way, and then offer the roles that they can do, and then let them go about it, let them experience their potential, and maybe they come up with certain solutions you've never even thought about. So this is how delegation is done. The third one is authoritative leadership. Again, this is entirely opposite to what we've been talking about, where you're not delegating, but you're just be a visionary and do whatever you want them to do. So you're asking them to follow you, and you're do the way you're doing everything. So the people who are authoritative, they motivate and inspire people who are around them, but uh, they don't give them the free will of doing things. So there'll be people who will have to follow them, and there is a sense of accomplishment or achievement in this, because obviously you're giving they have these they do motivate and inspire people, but this way of authoritative leadership will always uh, be heavily dependent on um, the leader itself. So this relies heavily on getting to know each member of a team, and it allows a leader to provide guidance and feedback on more personalized level, which you're not doing when it's the delegate if you're delegating. And this is it's a very clearly hands-on way style of leadership. But but leaders, they must exercise caution, because there's a lot of micromanagement in this, because you're getting to know people very thoroughly and you're asking them to follow you. So there's a lot of authority, a lot of check and balance, which puts a lot of responsibility on the leader. So the leader is doing most of the stuff, and they're asking the people to follow them. And there can be team members who who develop negative sentiments towards this um, leadership. Sometimes I would say that according to the situation, you would have to enforce your authority as a leader, but it doesn't work every time. In the same way as the previous two styles cannot work every time. So it has to depend upon, it does depend upon the situation. The fourth style is the transactional leadership. Again, it's a managerial leadership. It heavily relies on rewards and punishments. Again, if you if you work in an environment where you know that you're not going to be penalized, you're not going to be asked about what you did, if anything went wrong, what happened, how did it go wrong. If I'm as a teacher, if I'm joining in late, and I'm not bothered about anyone who's going to ask me, I can join an hour late. I would not make the effort. But who's going to suffer? The people who are with me. My team is going to suffer. The whole organization is definitely going to be suffering then. So there should be a reward, there should be a punishment. That sense should be there. But if it's too much, again, it becomes harmful. But then again, if you're not rewarded for what you have done, of what you've done, if it's something that you've done you've put in tremendous effort in it, and you're not rewarded for that, that then again demoralizes you. So at times, a transactional leadership style can also work. And then the fifth one is the participative leadership. So this is a democratic leadership, where it encourages leaders to listen to their employees and involve them in decision making. So it's an open space where people have they can talk about what they think works best, and this has been very common. It's been utilized by a wide range of leaders, and it it's been worked during the COVID-19 pandemic. There were teams who were not centralized, more decentralized, and made their leadership style. And teams may have become more decentralized. Like if everyone has a say, everyone is included in that leadership position, it becomes more difficult because everyone then has a has a different idea, and uh, there's there's not one centralized vision then there. So there should be open and candid communication that is acceptable, but then again you have to have a balance between all of these leadership styles. So there could be leadership styles where all five of these are incorporated, and it really depends upon the situation. So when you're participating and you have people who are participating, it's favored as it helps to build trust with employees again, like the previous ones that we've talked about. It empowers them and encourages them to share their ideas, but at the same time it should be controlled, because giving too much authority is also then going to be hard for you to tackle. So there's this concept where Charles Handys gave the four types, or the four types of cultures that exist in any organization. So these four types of cultures, they exist in almost every organization. May have one or more of these sorts of cultures existing there. And they're inbuilt in that organization. So if it's healthcare, you may have this a different culture of working there. If it's education, there may be a different culture there. If it's business, for instance, there'll be a different working culture there. So what does Handy say about it? So the four classes of culture are power, there is a role, task culture, and person culture. So the first one we'll talk about power, as the name indicates. It there is a center around which the all the other things work around the center. So there's more power within the center, and uh, there's less of like delegation is there, but that central power is there, which is existing, and that is the main focus. So as you can see in these arrows, all of these are connected. So the central is the most powerful, and we see this in, for instance, can you give me an example of a power culture existing somewhere, anywhere, in any organization that comes to your mind?
With this concept being like the manager, being the
Mm-hmm.
central of everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. Mm-hmm. And for instance, is in political scenarios, let's say there's a power that's central, and then all the other
yeah.
components, they
All the
work.
others are
Yeah.
around it, like
So
the prime minister.
yes, definitely. Very good example. Yes.
Mm,
And then the second is an example of role culture, where there is this central power, but there are different roles. So, for instance, if there's a person who's, let's say, a senior doctor, or he's at a senior position, his role will be different. His role will be uh, uh, entirely different compared to what a junior's role would be. So there's if you
yeah, like
distinguish, yeah,
the nurses and the seniors in the home.
yes. So the problem with this is that there is a hierarchy, and that hierarchy is very dangerous. uh it's again it's very closely related to power. So there's not one central power, there are multiple powers that are working, and then
Mm,
you have to deal with all those multiple powers. So the people who are at the bottommost position, they
mm,
won't go higher unless it removes some people from those powerful positions, from those roles. So unless you are a senior senior nurse,
Mm.
you will always be a junior nurse, obviously, and your role will be according to that. Obviously, you'll be at a lower level, but the power that you have or the say that you have will also dif- be different compared to what the senior nurse has. So
Yeah.
that this role culture is there, but again, it's very harmful for an organization where you don't have your say because your role is not of a senior lecturer or a senior nurse or a senior practitioner. So
Mm.
it becomes hard in that way. Again, the third one is the task culture, in which there are different tasks given to different departments. So there's a project running, for instance, there are different departments that are working in for instance, there's quality improvement, there's a quality improvement project. So different people have been given different tasks in that project, regardless of what their role is, what their hierarchy is, regardless of that. In this way, people who are they're more focused on solving particular problems because that's the different tasks that have been given. But the main ultimate goal is the project improvement. For instance, quality improvement that we're focusing on. There's not one single power source here because different people have been given different tasks, and this is a matrix sort of an organization. And the problem with this is that the team may develop their own objectives, which should not happen. There should
Mm.
be one main objective. For instance, there's quality improvement, that is the main objective of the project, and
Mm.
every team member has to work upon it according to their tasks. So, for instance, if there's this project, one person has to do the interviews, the other person has to do the analysis. Let's say the other person has to do with the logistics. Let's say so. Different people have different tasks that have been given to them, which is give them responsibility and gives them the authority also, which is a very good type of culture that exists in some scenarios. And then the fourth one is person culture, which we are not very familiar with. It works with accountants and lawyers. So people believe themselves to be superior to the business, and there is a bureaucratic sort of an authoritative um, way of thinking that they have the authority because they're better than the whole of the organization. So there are businesses where there are people who work in that way. So each person, they have their own power and they don't work as a team. That's the culture that's unfortunate, and it shouldn't be happening, obviously. And power lies in each group of individuals. So there might be different teams having more power compared to the other teams, and there's always going to be a discrepancy of in and there's not one leader working there as the name suggests. There's this method of leadership, situational leadership. We've talked a bit about how situations change and how your leadership uh, uh, tends to change also. I'm just focusing on the time. I'm trying yeah. Have to be a bit quick. Any point in time you want me to emphasize on anything, I'll be very grateful if you could just stop me and tell me to shed more light on it.
Okay.
And yeah, thank you. So that's these two persons, Blanchard and Percy, they worked on situational leadership. It's a model that says that different leadership styles should be used in different situations. We've talked a bit about it. Um, so in terms of this, there are four basic um, rules to consider. So you will talk about the extreme. We'll talk about the D1, which is on the extreme right of it's on the right of my side. So there's more. Okay, so talk about directly. So there are four different levels of leadership within these four quadrants. But this is a two-type chart in which we have S1, S2, and S4. directing, in which you define roles, tasks. There's close supervision, so you're directing people, you're making decisions, and there's only one way of communication. Okay, so the communication does not go two ways. It's only directing, in which you're just giving, you just it's more authoritative. You want people to follow you. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this can happen in some instances, okay, but if it happens for like forever, it's going to have low competency. There will be high commitment. People, obviously, if you're paying them for what they're doing, they have to do what the leader decides, obviously. But then there's more authority of the leader and less of the say of the other people. So there'll be less competency. People will not work to their full potential because they can do only what they're asked to do. So the second, this orange box shows coaching. So according to the situation, you change the leadership. Sometimes you'll have to coach. There will be direction, but there will be a lot of support also. And the leader talks, the leader decides, obviously, but then you have a say also. The others have a say also. The leader is coaching you towards the ultimate goal. And the third one is supporting, in which there is, so in the second one, in the orange box, there's some competency, but again there's low commitment, because uh, there's more coaching from the side of um, the leader themselves. And you can define coaching by where the leader encourages suggestions and inputs. Communication is two-way, and but then again, this is determined by the leader. And the third one is supporting, as I said. So it's a pass down. The leadership facilitates and promotes others. I'll just have to. Can you mute yourself? Sorry.
Can I?
Wait a minute. Can you mute yourself? If you're not speaking, is it okay if you mute yourself? Sorry.
Okay, mute. All right.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because this is being recorded, so that's my only concern. Okay. Thank you. So the third one is supporting, in which there is routine decisions that are passed down, and there's the leader who facilitates and is involved in the system, but they are not controlling. So this is very, very helpful. There's a lot of support um, to the team members, and in a way, it helps the leader in not putting too much pressure on them also. And the fourth is delegating. We've talked about delegation already, in which the team has the opportunity to work upon things which have been delegated by the leader themselves. So if you see, you'll appreciate that in just a minute. Yeah. So if you see, if you go from this way to this way in this direction, it leads you to having from a low level of directive behavior. You have a higher level of direction here where you're directing. So instead of delegating your tasks, you're more focused on um, being more authoritative. And as we go towards the other side, you have the supportive behavior, in which you start, if you're delegating, you're giving less support, but as we go above this and where you're actually supporting, there's this change happening where there's more support. So sometimes you may have uh, a low supportive but high directive behavior, and sometimes you may have a low directive and more supportive behavior. So it depends upon kinds of situations, different kinds of scenarios that you have to alter your leadership style. So this is one situation where move this annotation. Okay. So this one style is the Tenenbaum and Smith continuum, which shows a relationship between the level of freedom a manager chooses and a given team and the level of authority used by the manager. So as the team's freedom is increased, the manager's authority decreases, and vice versa, if team's freedom decreases, the manager's authority increases. So we've talked about these systems a bit, how these work. And then in this, it shows, according to the situation, the changes that a manager makes. So starting from a boss-centered leadership goes to a free reign where subordinates are have the say. So if you have the autocratic, the manager makes decisions. You it's the extreme left. It's the extreme where you see more authority from the leader themselves and less from the subordinates. As we go and give more, we focus more on our team and we give more freedom to the subordinates. You see that a manager, in the first instance, for instance, the manager makes decisions and announces. So he says, he talks, and that has to be heard, that has to be followed. In the other instance, the manager knows that there has been this way of improving the system, and then but he knows that it's not possible for that manager to take a change without convincing his people. So he has to convince, so that authority decreases somehow. In the third instance, the manager presents ideas, invites suggestions. This is more collaboration. In the fourth one, the manager presents a decision, and that can be subject to change. He can ask people if they want to make a change, they're open to it. Again, this is giving more authority to the subordinates, but it comes with its own benefits and disadvantages. In the fifth one, the manager presents problems and gets suggestions and makes decisions according to them. So this is completely giving power to the subordinates. As you can see in this side, in the extreme right side, there's an increased area of freedom to the subordinates. And then in the sixth one, the manager defines their limits and asks the group to make decision. In this way, the manager is saying that this is what their difficulties are, this is what their challenges are, and they ask for support from the subordinates, which is again a very low level of leadership, which should not be there. And in the last one, the manager permits subordinates to function within the limits defined by the superior, which then again takes a complete turn from the autocratic way of leadership to a free reign or subordinate centered leadership. Okay, so this, we've almost done with presentation. So this is William B. Redden's 3D style model, in which he focuses on concern for task and concern for people, which he defined as task orientation and relationship orientation. So he introduced the idea, and he says that particular styles might be appropriate in some contexts, and some might not be appropriate in those contexts. So this starts from the basic four basic styles. So you have the related style. You have, if you see the bar at the end of this slide. So the first one is related. The second is integrated. The third is dedicated, and the fourth is rated. So you can sometimes use appropriately these styles. Sometimes they're used inappropriately. So it's, for instance, to talk about the related one, it's more it's high relationship oriented. So there's a lot of relationship within the organization. If it's used inappropriately, it's going missionary sort of a style of leadership. Otherwise, it can be a developer for developing the whole of the team. The third one is integrated, in which you have mix of there's high relationship and high task as well. So it puts pressure on the people. There is good, there are strong ties also, but then there is a small increased pressure also that they have to deliver, no matter how the relation. The third one is dedicated, in which there is low relationship orientation. So it's more autocratic, it's more authoritative, and otherwise you can say that it is low orientation, but then there's a low relationship, there's there's lesser, the ties are not that strong in an organization. Tasks are very high, so it leads to improved tasks in that way. But then there is a burnout that happens at the end because of more autocracy if it's used inappropriately. And the fourth one is separated, in which you work as I mentioned earlier, that everyone works in their own circle, in their own bubble, and if it's used inappropriately, it's more like a deserter. If Otherwise, it's more bureaucratic in some organizations. So you have to evaluate your own role. What is your role in your situation? You need to look at your job description, list down some key roles and responsibilities that you deliver within your city, and then relate to the management role or the leadership style that you depict. So effective health and social care delivery requires care workers to work within the agency to meet the needs of service users. Care workers work with social workers, local government, citizen advisory bureau, and the police to provide services needed by service users. And healthcare professionals, again, they work within different situations. They have teams, they have other organizations working with them. And their basic objective is improving quality of care of the patients. Um, so some key attributes of every worker where they're working should be inbuilt within the system, within their system. So they act in accordance with the express and implied terms of contract of employment. Obviously, whatever your terms and conditions are, you work according to them. You do not discriminate against patients or staff, and to adhere to equal opportunities and equality and human rights legislation. You protect the confidentiality of personal information that anyone holds. You try to be honest and truthful in applying for a job and in carrying out that job. You maintain highest standards of care and service, treating every individual with compassion, dignity, and respect, taking responsibility not only for the care people personally provide, but also for wider contribution to the aims of the team, and the NHS should be your main focus. Play part in sustainability, improving services by working in partnership with people, with patients and communities, involve patients, their families, carers, or representatives. Um, Contribute towards providing fair and equitable services for all, and play part wherever possible in helping to reduce inequalities. Inform patients about the use of confidential information, record their objections, consent, and dissent. This is very important because it has to be patient focused, and provide access to patients' information. And then you assess the current skills. So this skills and knowledge audit, there's a skills and knowledge audit should be used in together with job specific competencies framework and milestone training plan for your role. And the skills and knowledge audit, it has been designed to help you and your line manager assess your capability against the key skill and knowledge areas that are required to be undertaken your role. It is designed basically to enable you to assess yourself in relation to a consistent set of criteria, and it helps you to and your line manager prioritize what your personal development plans are. So your current skills and competencies, you have to identify key aspects of your own role where you work, the organizational requirements. What is competency? It's described as the combination of training, skills, experience, and knowledge that you have, and your ability to apply them to perform your tasks safely and efficiently. It is also about having your expertise on and your clinical and technical knowledge to deliver effective care and treatment based on research, should be research based. And what are skills? This is the ability to use one's knowledge effectively and readily in execution or performance. So this is a continuous professional development plan. This should be a plan that should be discussed with you and your line manager. This should be showing a period from where you start, from where you end. So it should be it should have a time limit. So there are different skills. For instance, safeguarding. So you give your different you give a date and what CPD can you do for it, and how many hours you dedicate for that. And also your role. What is your role in it? What is your requirement of the employer to understand your issues around safeguarding? What key things did you learn from this? This is a very good chart if you follow it. Um, we also use this for our personal development plan. And in the end, you see how have you applied this to your roles. Continuous professional development should be inbuilt in every system that you, in every aspect of your work. And then we have the SMART goals that we have. So our goals that we set for ourselves or for our organization, they must be SMART is a mnemonic that's been given for specific. It should be what is the specific thing that you want to do? If it's continuous professional development, what is it specifically that you want to do? It should be measurable. Are there any parameters that are or are there any yardsticks that have been there for measuring where do you want to see yourself? Achievable, is it really achievable? If you want things to be like, for instance, if I'm a teacher and in some years I want to be a prime minister, that's not achievable, obviously, but I have to decide something that is achievable for myself, obviously. So I will decide SMART goals according to that, SMART objectives. Realistic, again, is it realistic? Are we does it make sense? Am I doing what I'm doing? Do I have the resources that are sufficient? Does it make sense what I'm doing and what I plan to do? And time bound, again, give it a start and an end date. If you do not do that, you're going to struggle then in that aspect. Again, this smarter targets are very good if they're achieved. And you can always discuss what your objectives are according to these smart targets. It's very helpful. These are the references if you want to have a look at them. That's it from my side. Any questions?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
You
I
have
just
any questions?
unmuted.
Yeah.
Yeah. For now, no questions because I'm listening to the lecture and it's quite understandable. It's relative to everyday life.
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Mm.
That's true. And also, yeah, if you have any questions, feel free, because it's tomorrow's session also, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, you have a session tomorrow. So any questions that you have, you can always ask them tomorrow. I'm happy to address any
The
concerns
only
that you
thing
have.
is, I would like to go over the lecture again one more time if it can be sent on the WhatsApp thing as a link so I can just play it again.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'll have to ask the team. Because again, we have a different the authority that's been given to me. I'm not sure whether I can do that on my own, but yeah, definitely I'll ask the team if that's possible. Yeah, to do. No problem.
Yeah, because it actually helps when you're working on the learning outcomes to just like listen to the lecture over and over again.
I know, yeah, the recording, yeah, it helps a lot. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is why we have the recording in place.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure meeting you, Placidia, and Martin. Is it Martin?
No, Placidia Araba.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The second participant.
Yeah, Matt. Yeah,
Yeah.
Martins.
Yeah. Hi. You're okay, Martin?
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. I'll see you then tomorrow. I'm afraid the lecture's over. We- Um,
I
I'll,
joined the class late. I would like to go over it again on my own so that I can start from the beginning to go over the class again so that I can have a better understanding
yeah.
with it.
I'll speak with you and I'll see you tomorrow then.
It's all right, no problem.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Take care. Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.